The restaurant was warm, loud, and full of laughter, the kind of place where people enjoyed life without a second thought. Snow fell heavily outside, covering the streets in silence, and then the door opened. A thin older man stepped in, clothes soaked, hands shaking from the cold. He wasn't loud, he wasn't demanding, just hungry. He stood at the counter asking for a small meal, a simple sandwich, something to keep him warm. But the cashier's expression changed the moment she saw him. Her smile disappeared, and the judgment in her eyes spoke louder than her words. She didn't know a human being. She saw someone who didn't look like he belonged there. When the old man pulled out a few wrinkled bills, she pushed them back, telling him they didn't accept dirty money. People in line looked away. No one stepped forward. No one asked why. They just watched him crumble quietly, embarrassed, hungry, and ready to leave. But just before he turned around, a voice cut through the silence. "I'll pay for him." The entire restaurant froze. Nothing would ever be the same after that moment. Watch until the end. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. His name was Henry Thompson, a 76-year-old retired factory worker. Once strong, once respected, once able to provide. But life had a way of rewriting stories. His wife had passed away a year earlier, and medical bills had taken whatever savings he had left. Henry's children lived far away, struggling with their own lives. Now, he lived alone in a small apartment that the city barely remembered existed. Every morning, Henry walked to the same park bench where he used to sit with his wife. And every afternoon he tried to find a warm place to eat. Some days he got lucky. Most days he didn't. On that snowy day, he entered the restaurant hoping for warmth and a meal. He held tightly to the few dollars he had managed to save. To him, it wasn't just food. It was human dignity. But life had a cruel habit of reminding him how invisible the world could make you. Inside the restaurant, customers ignored the cashier's stare as though he were a problem. Henry tried to speak politely, but his voice was weak. When the cashier told him he didn't fit in their establishment, Henry lowered his head. He had been judged before, but today something inside him felt truly broken. The cashier's words were loud enough for everyone to hear. "You can't pay for this. Please leave." The crowd went silent, not out of shock, but out of indifference. A few people stared at the older man with curiosity, others with annoyance, as if hunger was a crime. Henry nervously unfolded the money in his hand, proving he could pay, but the cashier refused to touch it. She turned away, laughing under her breath with a co-worker. Henry's eyes filled with tears, not from the hunger, but from the humiliation. He wasn't always like this. He once worked 10-hour shifts to build the very city that now pretended he didn't exist. He paid taxes, raised children, and helped neighbors. But none of that mattered in this moment. All people saw was an older man in worn-out clothes. Henry apologized softly, even though he had done nothing wrong. He gathered his money and slowly turned to leave. His legs felt heavy, his chest hollow. He wondered how people could sit and eat in warmth while watching someone starve feet away. That is when the chair pushed back sharply. A young black woman stood up. Her name was Amina Carter, a college student finishing her lunch between classes. She had seen the whole thing, every word, every sneer, every moment of cruelty. Her heart burned with anger. She couldn't stay silent. With steady steps, she walked to the counter and placed her card on it. "I'll pay for him," she roared. The entire restaurant turned to look. The cashier froze, trying to maintain her arrogance. She said the old man didn't belong there. Amina's eyes narrowed. "He belongs anywhere a human being belongs." Other customers began whispering. Some pulled out their phones to record. The cashier's confidence cracked. Amina ordered the meal, sandwich, soup, hot tea, and told Henry to sit with her. For the first time in days, Henry's hands stopped shaking. The manager rushed over, flustered, trying to control the damage. He apologized, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But Amina didn't let him twist the truth. She repeated what happened for everyone to hear. The refusal, the insult, the humiliation. Henry sat quietly, watching the world defend him for the first time in years. A customer stood up and demanded that the cashier be disciplined. Another offered to buy extra meals for Henry to take home. The restaurant that had ignored him moments before was now filled with voices speaking up. The cashier tried to argue, saying Henry made the place look unsafe. But her words only made things worse. People called her out. Phones kept recording. The manager had no choice. She was removed from the front counter and escorted into the back. Henry looked at Amina, tears forming again. But this time they weren't ashamed. They were grateful. It was the moment his world changed, not because of a meal, but because someone finally treated him like a human being. Amina sat with Henry while he ate. She listened to his stories, his wife, his job, his strength, and the world that forgot him. She didn't speak to him with pity. She talked to him with respect. Customers came by, offering kind words, shaking his hand, and leaving food on his table. For the first time in years, Henry felt seen. By that evening, the video of the incident had spread online. Thousands of people were outraged. The restaurant issued a public apology. The cashier was fired permanently. A local support group reached out to Henry and helped him access aid, medical support, and meals. People from across the city brought him jackets, groceries, and friendship, but the most significant change was in Henry's heart. He walked home that night with his head high. One act of kindness restored what the world tried to take, dignity. And Amina? She didn't do it for praise. She didn't do it for attention. She did it because silence makes injustice grow, and one voice can stop it. The question is, how many elders, how many forgotten souls suffer in silence every day? And how many would be saved? If just one person stood up and said, "I'll pay for him." Where are you watching from? Take care